Subscribe now.
Well, cool. So you should be able to hear me.
Yo, man, I hear you.
Excellent. So for today, I really wanted to go over, we haven't met in quite some time, and I really wanted to go over, the lightning bolt strategy, what it is. These are some of the discussion points of what is the lightning bolt strategy, EA is an indicator, how to set it up, how to configure it, and the strategy. I figured we start from scratch. There's people in here as well. And I'll be live streaming this with Zoom. For one reason is to save me effort with all the editing stuff. These goes out. I'm downloading, I'm cutting, I'm doing all this stuff, and it's just a waste of time to upload it. And hopefully it'll awareness for some as well. And that's pretty much it. We're getting it in the community, and hopefully we can get a little love. So just quickly on who I am, everyone knows me as Squawk. You can call me Leon. That's my name. And I am the designer and creator of the Lightning Bolt strategy, with over 20 years of experience, software development and system architecture, and 5 years experience. And now this is actually beginning of August was my first full year of full-time trading, which is exciting. So that's really cool. I guess we'll talk about the lightning bolt strategy itself. What is that? Let's see. Over what is the lightning bolt strategy? What is the lightning bolt strategy? And basically, is it the EA? Is it an indicator? The lightning bolt strategy is going to help you manage your trades, whether it's manual entries at the moment. So it's going to help you manage those manual entries with auto take partials at your targeted SMAs or fibs. It's going to also allow you to create reduced risk lines on the chart, which are like take partial stop losses, if you will. Trailing stops are built in. And the runtime functionalities are going to be like the shift click that those of us in the where you can shift click anywhere on the chart. Above price, that will be, or ahead of price, that will be your take partials, and below price will be your stop loss. And they're all customizable, where you can attach tickets, line, customize the take partial amount and percent such. So just wanted to give you that. Most of you all know this already. I wanted to really give you that information because there's a lot in it, and just want to make sure that everyone's aware of what it's doing. And the lightning bolt strategy is giving you an opportunity. It's helping you navigate through the markets by placing up some signals, price structure. So it's going to let you know support and resistance, which you can figure. And that's key. That's going to be key when the automated entries come out, because that's going to be one of the main confluences that'll be rejecting zone. So we really need to make sure that we're on top of that. It's also giving you lightning bolt itself, which is swing low signals or indicators, and there's some built-in secret sauce in there also that will help identify higher probability setups. So I was jamming here all day while I was trading and having fun. So my apologies for that. So you got that. Also, it's going to place on the chart your Fibonacci retracements. It's automatically detect Fibonacci retracements at key levels and draw out your entire sell. And of course, you have the divergence indicator, which is a part of the EA, but we've expanded it also to an external indicator as well. And then we've got the trend lines. Lines is also part of all of this. I'll be putting that in the EA itself. I'll be putting that in the EA as a button where you can click and it'll auto draw those. Can you guys all hear me well?
Yes, sir.
Yes, coming in clearly.
Perfect.
Yep.
So then we'll talk about setup, because setup is going to be super for everyone that is using the indicator. Setup's going to be, I think what I'll do is I'm going to open up a new chart. Let me just close my door 1 second. Sorry about that. So basically setup. So setup, once you join the community, well, you can actually set it up multiple ways. You can set it up 2 different ways, and I'll show you one, which is the easiest way. And that is using Administrator 4 itself. And within Administrator 4 itself, you can, dragging this is my London server, so it's seconds, moment. You can actually search for Algo King, and you will find the indicators here. This particular license here that you see is a unlimited server license. I'm sorry, unlimited Administrator 4 account license. So you can install any number of Administrator 4 accounts onto, or the LB onto any number of Administrator 4 accounts. When you're in the community, that one was is a single license, but you guys haven't updated where you can update Administrator 4 account at any time to switch or reattach.
Is that lifetime or is that monthly, Squawk?
That is monthly.
Okay.
Here, way. Cool. So that's that. That's the easy way. You just go to MT5, or you can go into Administrator 4, search for it, and follow the instructions, click it, and you're good to go. Or live and up and running. The other way is once you join the community in our installation or installation channel, we'll find the latest version of the Lightning Bolt. Guys, if you have a lot of background noise. And basically, once you do that and you download that indicator, you're going to open up your data folder. Once you open up your data folder, we'll then navigate to you will navigate to your experts folder, and you'll drop it right in your experts folder. I have mine here. Experts folder. Yeah, you can drop it right here. Then it will that's all you need to do to actually get it, have it recognized by the Administrator 4 that you're running. But then what you'll also need to do is you'll go into your tools, your options, and your expert advisor settings. There is a URL that's required to be added so that it can authenticate, right? Because that's going to authenticate you. It's going to check to verify that you are a user of the Telegram. Get it off of the marketplace, Administrator 4 marketplace. There is no need to add that information. You're automatically added because it wraps its own around EAs, and it's simple and easy at all. And those that get it there, just DM me the community. Now, once that's up and running, then the fun begins. When you're going to have to, one, you're going to have to get your Telegram ID from your from the My ID bot. These are instructions that you get when you mail or you join the community. Once you get your Telegram ID, EA is going to be required. It's going to require you to otherwise it won't. Right. So if we go into Control N, you'll be able to navigate down, and you'll see your Lightning Bolt strategy here. If you don't see it, just right click and refresh the folder, and then it'll just refresh it. So if you didn't have it and you had this loaded beforehand, popped it in your experts folder, then once you refresh, it's right there. It's all good to go. What I'll do is I'll start a new, I'll open up a new chart, and then we'll start with or the configuration of lightning bolt strategy. Once we go through that, then we'll talk about the functions. I'll create some, well, I've got some trades open now, but we'll create some trades and then demo some runtime SLs and such. Are my trades, for an example, you guys know, and as I'm going to help now markets. So I was getting in early on, a little bit lower here than this price, but it was signals actually off the 15-minute. But you can take a look. It's going to draw your support and resistance, and it's going to also give to you every trade. This was a trade here, diagonal line, actually cashed out, and we'll go over all this. So it was off the buys. Are not sell orders. These divergent. So let's back. It'll give you that information, all these things. We'll talk about the strategy itself. But now, set it up. All you really need to do is, and I'm going to remove tags here. And if you guys have any questions, please. But all you need to do is just drag this here onto your chart. It's going to ask you for your MetaTrader 4 ID, but I have settings preloaded, so I will load it. Most of you already know this. For those that are watching either on or are very new, we'll go through this some more. But say I'm working on the M1, I will then load my setting. I have a set that I've basically we'll go through these. What you'll also want to do is, you don't have it in this version, so I won't really talk about it. But here, if you allow DLLs, I'm calling a Windows function that, because I'm going really auto trader and running this a lot often, what'll happen is the minute any chart gets a signal, there's some code behind that that's going to automatically set the focus on that chart. It's gonna, I usually have my quadrants, my 4 or 5 charts. It'll expand it, and it'll set the focus on the chart that was giving the signal. So we don't need, you guys don't need to do this, but I'll do this here for right now purposes. And now we'll go through some of the settings. So this one's a little bit more difficult, but we'll talk about this quickly. So this one here is basically, if you go into your marketplace, we've had users where if they go into their market watch and they take a look at their specification, I'll actually show. I'll go into my market watch and I'll go into specs, specification for an instrument. And if they go to specification here, there's a field called digit. And digits indicates, this second field here, it indicates the number of decimal positions your broker will allow you to hold. So for example, because mine says 2 digits, I can hold a 0.01, right? It's 2 digits to the right of the decimal, 0.01. These are these fields are just for us to as developers, for us to access. So we access that value that's there. But what brokers are doing is they're not keeping that field up to date, and they're setting it to 0. So that means that if you're running a 1 lot, you click take partial, and I'm trying to split it to a 0.50, it's saying you can't partial it out to a 0.50, right? So it's forcing you to run a 1.0. It's breaking EAs basically. Then in addition to that, if you wanted to move your stops to break even, when I'm calculating those, positions on your open price, it's not allowing you to. You got to be a whole $1 up in profit, and your minimum, your stop will be at no less than $1 above your price. So it's a way that they can break EAs very easy. But what we do is we have a workaround for that, and that is go to back to our EA settings. I want to start scratch. I want one, but it's giving me a signal. That's why I set the focus on that. So I drag this on. see this is actually my London server. All right, so here you'll notice all you have to do is set this to true and set the true number of decimals that you know your broker allows. And if that's set to true, it'll use that field in the EA and not the field that the broker is providing, not that value that the broker is providing. So if they're giving you 0 in your digits field, will give you, and you define a 2 here, it's going to use the 2 over and over, allows you to look around. In addition to that, we have zone setting. It's going to be super key, right? So zones are going to be, our zones are going to be the basis of, identifying market structure, support and resistance. Where price is going to have a difficulty. So when we draw our zones, we normally look at a higher time frame and top-down analysis, right? Start at say the H4, and we'll start drawing out lines on the chart based on the swing highs and swing 4. Now, everyone, if we all did that exercise manually, we should all have pretty much similar zones, but it all depends on how far you've started drawing the zones, right? So if you only look at the current swing high and you're drawing zones from the current high and the current swing low, you'll have 2 lines, where someone else that's going back in history to draw their lines, they may have more lines, and they may have lines that are close to yours, but not quite, right? We can be almost exact, but not quite sitting on top of each other. And this is something that, as you begin to, if you understand that process of top-down analysis and what your starting bar is, this is where you configure your starting bar. It says here, draw zones from bar. You can set it to draw from any bar in history. This is saying it's going to start drawing 300 bars back. And it'll use the 30-minute zone, draw the 30-minute period to draw these zones, right? So what we'll do is we'll start, since we're running on the 1 minute, I'll start with the 1 minute. I'll use the 1 minute, and I'll say, let's go back 15, or just say 1,000 bars, right? Because we're only talking about a minute, so that's not a lot of historical data, right? So we'll run it at 1,000 bars. These fields are going to come into play once we load this up. These fields are going to come into play when we can see what the zones are looking like. See if we have a lot of small zones, because high swing lows, they could be thin because I'm drawing the zones off of the wick and not just the low or the swing high, but actually the full height of the wick, get a zone. And then we can start to control the distance. I'm going to click OK. Right? And what will happen is, I did not my this. I'll do this, right? I have it set to 2,500, but this example will start at 1,000. And it's super duper important. For 1 minute, I can almost understand why it would look busy and why we want it. You're scalping. And sometimes you just want to know, where's price going to have trouble or reaction to price. And that's the whole basis of this strategy. We target areas where there's going to be a reaction to price. Target areas for entries as it's rejecting a zone. Target areas to take partials as we are coming into a simple average. Simple reason is because we can't predict the market, and because we can't predict the market, and the market is fluid, we're not going to come into the market with just standard solid. I won't take a partial. I must make my 10 pips. No, we take what the market gives, but we flow with it. We understand that the market's going to react to simple moving averages, zones, and even to fibs very nicely. You can see that all across the chart. You can see here, if you're looking at the top simple moving average, how price has respected it on the way up, and price has also respected it. So when we draw zones, we want to make sure that it looks clean, that is giving us some space in between. Allow our trade to run. Once again, because this is a 1-minute chart, I personally want to see a little bit more zones on the 1-minute chart. I'd be looking because I want to know exactly at what point when I'm scalping the 1-minute chart, I'm not looking to know about the overall trend. I don't need to, I'm trading price action, so I need to see more information. If I go back into my settings, I will explain to you, let's see. But here, I'm filtering the minimum height. So I'm going to get rid of this. Remember, this is set to 2 minimum height. And I'm setting the distance between zones to be no less than 50, right? So I'm going to get rid of this so that we can see this is the after, but I want to show you the before. So when you load it up with no settings, you're going to get a whole lot of zones. This is not the chart. I'm getting a signal, so that's why it's moving. So if I go here, you'll see. Yeah, so actually this looks good on the 1-minute chart. This is the way it's painted on the 1 minute. So this is actually looking very good. Let me just out the this is actually looking good. And yeah, this is looking good. So this is as is. The 1 minute is going to be what you would want, what you would look. Sometimes you can get a bunch of zones all on top of each other, and it all depends on how the market's moving, right? Because if the market is moving in a trend, you can get nice zones, but you may have to go further back in time, right? Take a look at this here, where you see how this is pushing up. In history, we may have to go back more than the 1,000 bars. We don't know. We'd have to zoom out and see more than the 1,000 bars so that we can get price. We can get candles or prices that are around current price and even above it, so we can get resistance, right? So you need to understand how to change the number of bars that you can. Right? That's number one. Number two, um, number two, I will change this to the 5 minutes to give you also. It's actually a good example. So I'm going to go to the 5 minute. 5 minute. So that basically what I need to do is I need to change my zone period to 5 minutes. Okay. And then I'll leave this as is, no filter. We'll click OK. It's not going to auto draw those zones on the 5 minute. You need to change the time frame of your chart to the 5 minute. And once you change it to the 5 minute, it will recalculate and redraw. Right, so this is it on the 5 minute. But if you zoom out back to the 1, you're going to see. I'm trying to find a bad example here. Talk about this. All going to need to practice. Okay. Liking these bars. Liking it. As I find a bad example out of all the days, I find a bad example for a zone. But basically, you need to just use filtering tools to allow yourself to create space between the minimum height, get rid of that aren't valid, and also set your distance zones apart, and that will then give you more significance. Some people like to, and I like to also, if I'm looking at the 5 minute, I like to run higher time frame zones, say the 30 minute, bounce back down to the 5 minutes. Do that, you can do exactly that, change here, and then go changing the chart to your 30 minute time frame, let it repaint, and then you can drop back down to the 5 and you'll be looking at 30-minute zones on a 5-minute chart. You can change the color, and that's about it. So once again, this is super important for me. I'm realizing even more the importance of it because my EA for the auto entries will not trigger unless I'm getting an LB, a lightning bolt signal, plus a rejection of zone. And if I got zones that are just not right there, or they're not there, I may not get signals hit. Or if I have too many zones, I'm going to get too many signals that are hitting, right? Because I can have, in a full, swing up to just a few candles down on the retracement, have or zones there, it'll look like, and it'll trigger those. And in many cases, it shouldn't, right? Will if they're there. So you really want to make sure that they're tight. And if you can't get the zones to look right, all you have to do is draw in zones manually. EA will it'll use those zones for your uh, for the calculation, right? So that's going to be drawing your zones and manually get that full version. It's going to um, consider those on zones for the trade. Is that cool? You guys are good with that? Anybody having issues with that, or have you? I know we've been focusing on it a little bit more. Are you guys finding that you're improving it and it's clear?
If we draw in the zone manually, how do we activate that I guess as far as the EA goes to recognize?
So right now, it will consider any zone that's drawn on the chart. But I will be changing that so that what you need to do is you need to test, right? Because there are other individuals that are drawing or they're using other indicators on top of this. And those indicators have boxes, rectangles. And we don't want to um, uh, have the EA, use those zones accidentally in the algorithm, right? So what you'll do is there'll be some functionality where maybe you'll double click it, or you can click a button in the upper right corner, and it will allow you to that as a zone that you want.
Yes.
So that's that. Then what we have are the lightning bolt signals itself, right? So the lightning bolt signal, itself. Lightning bolt signal itself, what you need to do is you need to be sure, this is my suggestion, sure that you're running it in aggressive mode and you run candle mode off. So basically you have aggressive mode and you have conservative mode. Conservative mode is going to give less LB, less lightning bolt. That's basically what I have in the EA is I'm checking for ABC patterns and I'm checking for, variations of these swing highs and swing lows. And conservative is just a more strict test. So aggressive is going to basically take the governs off of the engine and allow it to run. It's going to give you a lot more EAs. I'm sorry, a lot more lightning bolts. But I think that's okay. And the reason why is because we're not just trading off a lightning bolt alone. We're trading off of confluence, building off of lightning bolts that's at a level of resistance or support that is rejecting, or a simple average, or physical or a psychological level of support, and it's acting to. So I would keep it on aggressive, and the candle mode. If you keep it on, it's a strict option. I'm sorry, sensitive, it's going to look for candlestick patterns. I look for like engulfing candles, things of that morning stars, evening stars, things of that nature.
I don't know who that was.
All right. Anyway, so oh yeah, no,
But I did want to ask a question about what you just said, Squawk.
sure.
Is that how do we interpret that information? If the brokers are printing, I guess, different candles, which are going to give us different lightning bolts and notifications, is it important that we all get the same ones, or is it more important that I get the ones that are specifically accurate to my broker? But obviously, because that's the platform I'm going to be trading on, and if that makes sense, what I'm saying.
Very true. So actually, very very good point. And I think what'll happen is, I think that's an individual decision. I think what we do is usually when you're looking at a swing high and swing low, by default, everyone should be trading, understanding that you want to look for also an engulfing or some sort of candlestick pattern at that swing. So that would be the manual process. You could filter them out by seeing the LB manually or physically seeing it on your screen and then taking a look at the candle pattern. This is for this version right now because right now there's no auto entry. Structure of what's happening. So it's really up to you now. I think as we get closer to auto trader, my recommendation would still be turn it off. You're gonna have more than enough confluences. I'm looking at no less than confluences. It's gonna be in most cases 3 confluences. So it really depends. You may miss some opportunities simply because the LB isn't going to trigger a print.
Gotcha.
So yep. So there you go. So that's it. I would leave that there, and then you have your icon padding, which will allow you to push if your LBs are too close or handles, and above or below. And this I leave to none. But if you were to draw it out, if you were to enable it, you would see that it's going to draw a little triangle from swing high down to the swing low to indicate that that was the lightning bolt. That pattern right there, or that swing low, had information in it to give you a signal that it's a lightning bolt. Probably there's a higher probability of a reversal, whether it's a short-term reversal, because even if we're trading in the trend, it could give you an LB. Say we're trading going down, so today it could give you a sell LB of the the bullish, the short-term bullish push. So I don't color it. It's just my chart a little noisy. I trade without that. You play with that, turn it on or off, and you'll be this here, the bars, that's going to indicate how many bars back. If you wanted to, back test this outside of strategy tester, you can set this to 1,000 bars and it'll draw LBs starting from 1,000 bars back, working forward. Golden history, look and see. If see how the price is moving, where the LBs are being drawn, and how it's lining up with support and resistance, or fibs, or rejecting some average. Your way that you. Let's see there. Fine. Commentary. Okay. And actually, as we get there, I'm going to actually section, right? So the fib section, EA will auto draw fibs on the chart, but it's not going to draw every fib retrace. It's only going to focus on fibs that line up with lightning bolt, right? So if you get a swing, get a a LB sell. Well, it's going to, if it draws a fib, it's going to draw the fib on the swing low to swing high. That LB sell is in a fib zone. It'll auto draw the fib. It is to notify you and let you know, hey, I'm in a fib zone, and it will automatically draw your entry line, buys and your. I think it's valuable. You can use that for confluence if price is right at that fib level, or you're getting the fib on an LB and say you're rejecting a zone or you're rejecting significant simple average. That's a great opportunity. And we'll go over these. Then what you have here is you can set your draw fib retracement entry lines, and that's just drawing the lines itself. So you're going to want to keep that to. And then you have your fib zone, your high and your low values. So I set my values to 236.764. The golden zone, as we know, is 58, but there are other zones that come into play. You can have a very shallow retracement or a deep retracement. And basically, if price is closing in that zone, anywhere between the 236 and 7 and getting a zone, I'm then looking at the way the algo works is it'll drill in and it'll say, well, what zone is it really falling in? Hey, is it in the golden zone? Is it the four? I'm sorry, the 618 to 704, or is it 382 to 50? And it will then block out that area and then draw proper entry on the true retracement of that swing higher swing low. Here what we have is another setting that I think will be helpful for everyone. This will allow you to create a moving average trend line as a baseline. So it'll allow you to draw or move with the trend, right? You can only draw fibs that are moving with the trend of. So basically, if you set this up the way we have it as an EMA and an EMA baseline 50, if it draws a fib, right now I have it to false because I'm on the 1 minute and I'll explain. But if you got a say a fib sell line, that would mean that, or say this swing high here, that would mean that from the swing high, from the swing low to the swing high, down to the swing low on the retracement, the majority, the calculation, the majority of those candles have to be above your baseline. And that indicates that you're trading with. For the 1 minute chart, for the lower time frames, I turn it off simply because on the 1 minute, you're not really going to be trading with the trend, right? You're really just not. The 1 minute is going to be wild, wild west. It's going to trade. I mean, it's going to move in directions that are counter, that are with or against the current trend. So basically, I turn that off when I'm on the 5 minute or when I'm on the 15 and up. I'm turning this on because then I only want to paint fibs that are moving with the trend that'll allow me to get those signals. And super important that you understand that, because once you guys get the EA involved, that's going to auto trade. It's going to trade off of those Fibonacci placements, and it's going to look for additional confluences, whether it be a zone or simple average rejection as well. But you need to have that in place and understand when you need to turn that on, when you want to trade with the trend, don't want to trade, don't want to get put into positions that you're interested in. So there you have it there. So I'll click OK here. Okay. So let's just zoom.
Out of curiosity, Squawk, what do you mean when you say the London server?
Oh, okay. Yeah. So I have a VPS, or actually a dedicated server, and my dedicated server I have hosted in. So basically, I pay a service that allows me to put my software on it, and I just let it run from there. So I actually remote desktop into that machine, and then that machine. You guys see me here. I'm really on my development machine and my actual production trading machine. I've been trading off of my development machine for quite some time now, for us, and in that upgrade. But now that that's over, I'm actually trading off of.
And your development is your local, right, from at your house.
That's correct. That's correct.
Okay, got it. I have mine set up the same way.
Nice, very nice. So for example, here we get this fib buy signal, right? And you're seeing here, it's actually prices pushed up. And basically, this line here is telling you, or from here to here, this bottom diagonal line. Let me control F plus here. This bottom diagonal line is basically telling you that it's used all of these candles from the swing low to create this, from the swing low to swing high, and then this line is just pointing out where it actually retraced to, right? We know this is the swing low, but then this is the actual entry. So it's drawing out a fib here at this level. This is the fib that'll draw. I'm sorry, this is the fib that'll draw out. So this is actually drawing out, and I take that back. I'm sorry. Here, it's drawing out, and it's showing you that this is a fib retracement of 618. 764. So you have it here, swing high to the swing low, and then it's showing you, hey, this is the 764. That means that's the previous zone is. That's the 6. Draws the buy line out automatically, and then you can make a decision on do you buy it. So if price is above this, take a look at this. This is a good entry. Although it didn't reject here a zone or a simple moving average, when the candle closed after getting the buy line, actually you got this buy signal, right, on the second green candle. This is where you got that buy signal, and that's also on that open candle. That's where this fib buy line was drawn, and that's where you would make the entry. Build the case, right? What trading is all about building, and we're building a case here that we have a fib retracement, have a lightning bolt, which is a swing high, swing low marker, and we can see here that price has then closed above 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm sorry, 3 simple moving averages that we track. 20, 50, 100. Well, 20, 100 are being crossed over, and it's also breaking above the zone. So here, that's a good entry. There are some cases where you can't make sense of it, and if you can't make sense of it, then you don't take the trade. The way the EA is running is that it's going to look at these confluences and it's going to give a score. It's going to create an actual scorecard. So basically, because I keep track of all lightning bolts, all zones, it's not just printed on the screen, nothing. It's data to me, and I can access any fib at any point, any lightning bolt at any point in time. And I'm going to eventually, you're going to see on this blank area, if you indent here in this area, we're going to create a scorecard. It's going to be a confluence scorecard, right? Which is going to list all of the confluences for that LB that you just got. And then it's going to give you all of the counter confluences of that LB. And it'll allow you to take a look at it and have a scoring system.
That sounds amazing.
Yeah, it'll be crazy. But if we have a scoring system for any of the signals, right, then we can say, well, the total confluences, the confluences for a buy is stronger than the confluence for a sell, and maybe that'll help you make a decision.
Squawk, good evening. Have you made the decision as to what are you going to stick to the simple moving averages or EMAs on the auto trades?
That's going to be configurable.
Okay.
Yeah. You'll be able to set it up. So that's actually a very good point, and we're gonna definitely get there. I'll show you that how it's creating targets now, and you're gonna be able to identify targets for entry and also your targets for exit. Now we have targets for exit where we identify the simple averages as our targets, and then what we'll do is we will then identify simple moving or moving averages.
Got it, man. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So,
hey, I had a question also on the auto trading. I know we're going to get to there. I just wanted to just throw it out there. So when we get there, you had mentioned earlier on the zones. Will the zones be customizable for the EA, for the auto trader too?
Absolutely. You can decide to use the zones that are built into the lightning bolt strategy, or you can completely turn it off and draw your own zones. And if you draw those zones, those are going to be the zones that are going to be used as confluence.
Okay, great.
So this is, excuse me. This EA is quite interesting because what it's doing is it's allowing it's allowing us to interact.
What you drinking, that pumpkin spice?
That's what it is.
Squawk. What you got, Squawk?
I know, right? I've got that spiked pumpkin spice. No, I don't know. This is actually just juice, but I think it's helping here.
Yes.
So basically, lost my train.
He was asking where the zone's going to be configurable or customizable on the EA.
That's right. So you can drop any zones. You can use the zones that are built in, or you could draw your own. And the EA will only use the zones that you're actually that is actually seeing on the chart. So, this EA is very unique where a lot of the other EAs that are trading, they're trading strategies and you can't interact with it. Right? You just have to let it go. You can't really touch it. There's a magic number to the on the entries and exits, and they'll track it. You can take a look. Hey, you've made a trade without a magic number, so you manually made a trade, so you must. But here, this EA is going to, it trades like a human being. It trades the way we would normally trade, looking at price structure, at rejection, looking at these things. So this is going to allow you to interact with, which is great. So even if you made a manual trade, we'll get into this. You can click a button and then the EA will adapt that manual entry and attach targets to it automatically. So, that's the uniqueness of it, is that you're going to be able to interact with the, you're going to be able to throw on, your own zones, and it'll use those zones. It is a long story, but short answer is, yeah, you.
Hey, Squawk, and I know Bryant was and I was working before, and I know Josh had the same issue with the zones erasing. I don't think Bryant caught the information on that. Can you speak to that as well, about how you're doing that edit?
Exactly. So basically, users are using other ways that may, like, little blocked out zone areas of consolidation. So because that zone or it's the same kind of triangle, it's the same object is on the chart. When the EA is running, it's then looking, when it stretches out these zones or is calculating, it's looking at these zones, and then it's automatically drawing it out and it's adapting this other EA's zone as itself. So basically, what you're going to do is, if you're drawing a manual zone on the chart, you're going to click a little button in the upper corner, or you'll double click it, similar to when we draw our shift click functionality, similar to when you drop a little function on the little TP or SL on the chart. You can click it and get options. You're going to do the same. You're going to click this zone, and you'll be able to tag it as a entry. You'll even be able to tag it as buys above or sells below, so that for sure, if you get into this point here, you're not going to want to sell. They buys only, right? So that, say we pushed up to this point, and or maybe you say sells only, because that it's going to be traced. You're identifying it as its own price. It's going to not get into buys because it knows the zone that it's rejecting or pushing above is tagged as sells only. So we're going to be able to add that information into the EA for the auto entries.
Wow. Okay. Okay. Yeah, that makes a whole lot more sense right there. Because that was one of my concerns, because I'm one of the people who are using other indicators on top of the LB. So that's that.
Yep, exactly. So you're going to be able to tag it, and it'll keep going. The indicators separate thing. Ones that.
Okay. Great.
So, so that's how you're going to use the fibs. You can go on any time frame here, and you'll see print, and you can configure them to trade with the trend or not trade with it. Right, so you identifying the trend. Hey, do you want to trade with the trend? One placement. I know some people don't believe in fibs, and you don't have to trade the fib. Every feature is going to be something that you could turn offer on, right? But even though you don't trade it, here's placement. I know it's blue against blue, but you can compare the LB sell. It detected it as being a fib retracement for a sell, and it gave you the sell line right. It's close below. You could stay in it, and your stop loss could be right above the swing high, which is here. Even on this fib buy, I'm sorry for the clashing colors. Take a look at this. Maybe I could get fib byline, this triangle, or for the color coding you can want, but you can see that we've gotten a swing low to swing high, and then back down to the swing low, and it placed a byline here with the LB. And if you're running this confluence, you wouldn't use this zone here because this is a fresh zone, right? You know, we want zones that are actually circled points, but significant zones. You can drop down here and say, hey, you know what, I never got down here. But the key thing is that it's rejecting a bunch of simple moving averages. So the higher the time frame, the higher these play out. And if you don't play zones, that's cool. But you need to understand, I'm sorry, if you don't play fibs, that's cool, but you need to understand that they exist, and you're gonna have to, you know, have to respect them because price is going to react there, leading to orders on the retracement because inexpensive. They're entering in areas. So you don't want to say you have a fib buy, get into a sell, you know for sure it's gonna be just so now let's take a look at another ran through the fibs, right? And then you have RSI divergence, right? RSI divergence in the EA, it's built in for standard divergence, a reversal, right? It's going to be a reversal signal. But what I've also dropped is this indicator down below here, which is a totally separate indicator that's really blown out and is using RSI and stochastics as the oscillator, and it'll then print your fib, I'm sorry, your divergence into the hit. Take a look and see what you find here. I'll tell you this. So basically what you do is you just put in your, for the EA, you just put in your RSI period, and you can put in your RSI oversold and overbought levels, calculate it, and the EA is currently only using RSI hidden, I'm sorry, RSI standard divergence. The indicator is using RSI and stochastics divergence. Right, so here, if you take a look, if we could go into past here, and I'll take a look. This here can be used as a standalone RSI and stochastic also because the blue line, these are true RSI values, and so it's good to go. But if we could find some setups in the past, let's look at, say, okay. Here we have here this line here, this blue vertical line is, take a look here, that this is hidden bearish divergence. So it calculates it here. It's seeing that we're getting higher from this point to this point. We're getting higher because it says it's using stochastics. We're getting a higher stochastic signal while price is making low lows, and it created the hidden bearish signal right here for continuation. You build the case. It's all about confluence. We don't have a zone here, but we know we have these SMAs here that are of significance, right? So because it's now then getting the signal away from these SMAs, rejecting this 20 SMA, or actually this is the 50 SMA, and it's rejecting this SMA, which SMA is the, sorry, that's the 20. I'm sorry, this is the 50. Yep, so this is the 50, and the right is the 20. It's rejecting both. This is a good signal for entry. Got to be super careful on the lower time frames because you get a lot of like out are going to things that are going to give you all about building. Right, this buy here, we got this buy signal here. This is the buy that's built into indicator itself. How do I know that? Because there is no vertical lines or diagonal lines in the indicator, so this is built in. RSI standard divergence for a continuation. I'm sorry, but even here, if you got this, there'd be no way anyone should take this trade, right? Because we don't have support, we don't have support, we have SMAs ahead of us. Maybe unless you're thinking that you're going to retrace up to, you know, an SMA for a retest, but that's about it. That one played.
Quick question, man. I don't have any SMAs in my chart. Is that something that you put on there yourself, or is that incorporated into the bolt strategy?
So that good question. So the EA does not add indicators. So you'll need to add them. We'll need to add. I could put that in there, but I don't want to much in it. Moment. Just that's it. So here, all you really need to do is just go to your Control N, to your navigator. And once you go to a navigator, you should be able to drag, go into your indicator settings, indicator branch, and then click on moving average. And there you can double click it, add it to the chart, and then you'll be able to set up your I preach 20, 50, 100, and also the 800. But
is there do you do like a certain color coding by any chance, or does it really matter for you?
Yeah, so the 20 I usually do. This is a server that I just moved over, but usually I do 20 as red, the 50 as yellow. I could drop that in the community. I actually have a styling template that you can include in your administrator for and use that. So when you load it, it'll have the same.
Yeah, that would be nice, because at least like when you do the live streams and stuff like that, it would be nice to be looking at the same thing, whether it's your screen or mine.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Just to make learning easy, so I'm not looking at like two different colors or something
100%.
like that. That's all.
100%. Yep. So those are actually those templates are actually already in the Algo King channel Telegram. You can download those, and it will color code. And actually, those are the templates that will load these.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah. And we'll walk through that together.
Hey, Squawk, just to add to that, when you hit the manage manual button,
yes,
it's going to take those partials, right?
No, when you click
regardless whether they're showing or not.
Well, not manage manual, but take partial. Right, manage manual. We'll get to that in a second. In just a moment, we'll get to those buttons because another section down, talking about the exit strategy, how exits are applied, or how it creates these automatically create lines. And we'll talk about it. But in a nutshell, if you have your EA configured for these SMAs as targets, all you do is click manage manual, and it'll draw these targets out for you.
Okay.
If you click take partial, it's going to take a partial immediately, and there's some configurations around the take partial, partial on all positions, last position, or any position that were not. And we'll go through that. There, 7. Hoping everyone. Offering it. Definitely. And so.
Yeah, hopefully it's transferring pretty good. It's a little laggy right here. Like when you're talking on the right, you're clear, but the face in the middle of the screen is, laggy. But hopefully it'll transfer over really well.
Yeah, that's a YouTube thing. It's like I could get it down to 2.
Yeah.
I was what we. It's like I can get it down to 2.
Yeah. For sure.
So now let's get into I won't talk about the entries. That is right now my baby. That's right now what I'm doing. So on the automated trader, and this is going to blow out a bit. So I won't talk about these too much. I won't get into too much detail. Rush on it. So for entries, for every chart that's running the EA, you can set the maximum simultaneous. So I can say, hey, you know what? I only want this chart to trigger a maximum of entries, right? So what happens is, as say I'm getting an LB buy and confluence, right? It's an LB buy rejecting off of a, then what happens is it's going to get you into, but it will also, every candle, it's going to run a calculation and make a decision if it wants to get you into another trade, and it'll top off that 3 simultaneous. And the way I control it is, right now it's set for a fib entry zone of 50%. So it's not going to, it'll only make entries if it's below the 50% retrace. right? So really, it's going to be, you know, the latter part of the 50. We're between 100% retrace and 50, right? Because if you look at this price here, you know, this swing high that you can see on the left side, there was a swing low. You got an LB, so it's not going to make uh, a entry beyond. I take it back here, beyond this 50%, which is right above that 50. So it's only going to make entries. This is going to be your price zone here where it can make entries. So when we're manually trading, I always tell people, hey, look, if price is above or beyond the 382, I'm not going to make an entry. I'm going to wait for the retest of that lightning bolt so that I can get then my stop. I'm taking on more risk. I have a lot size calculation rather than drop my lot size forth. So basically, I usually will not trade or make an entry beyond the of every trade. So there you have it. You can control the EA will run that same logic that I apply here. And also you can set a Bollinger Band filter, right? So set this to true. The reason why I have it as 50, 50, right? Especially golden zone. But the way I filter it even more is I have a Bollinger Band getting into cells. Price has got to be on the top half of the Bollinger Band. Price has got to be bottom half. To think of this as a uh, a grid where you have Bollinger Band and zones or fib zones, you're going to get just a little window where the going to live, going to allow you to create entry. That's something we'll talk about as you guys get this. Now what we have is the exits. Right, so the exits is what we all have now. Everyone's running the exits and take partial logics. Here we've got the partial mode, right? So you can make the determination on how you want partials to be processed, right? You can say, I want, if a target is hit or if I click the take partial button, I want it to partial all positions or positions never partialed. So say you were in a position earlier today, right? And you're ready in the money, you're good. You don't want to touch that position. And now, you know, market opened, you just boom, 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 boom. You just clicked 3 entries of positions. You can set it to partial positions partialed, only partial those 3 positions. Another option is where it's only going to partial your most recent order. So if you entered a few positions and now entered one very last one, it could be close to price. You're trying to really, you know, it's kind of risky. You may only want to partial that particular. And then what you do is you can enable your moving. Here is where you could define your moving average, whether it's an MA or a SMA. This is JC. I know you're asking that exits, but this is going to be the same logic for that. You can set up SMAs or EMAs. And here are the SMA targets that I use. I just put it in a comma delimited 20, 50, 100. And the EA is going to track that. And when you get into an order, and if you click Manage Manual, it's going to automatically plop, so you know, put take partial lines at those levels of simple moving. You can set a minimum target in pips. So right now I have a minimum target in pips of 8. I could change 4 to whatever, but basically when it's looking at the targets or the moving averages, price gotta be beyond 8 pips. Otherwise, it's not going to target that moving. What I will be adding to this is how we have a trailing stop. I want to add a trailing start, right? So imagine this logic here, trailing start. We've noticed many times price can move right at that SMA, but not quite touch it, and then therefore, and then retrace, but we didn't take the partial. I find myself seeing that happen, and I'm automatically then clicking on clicking the take partial button. But what I'm going to do is create a trailing start, and that's going to allow you to identify a number of pips, and it'll look and say whatever the price value is for that moving average that you have, it'll minus those number of pips, partials, also partial pips, and it will then take the partials there. So you're ahead of the simple moving average by a certain amount of. It gives you a chance to allow that take partial line.
Amazing work, Squawk. That's awesome, man.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate that, man. And enable fib targets. I don't want to talk about that here because logically you can configure the full fib targets. So if you define your fib levels here in this field and you click on manage manual, it's going to automatically throw those targets up. Targets, but I think there's a better way to do it right now in manual mode, and I'm going to show you that. So then you could also enable band targets. That bands as targets. If they're entering below the midline, the SMA moving average of that band, they're targeting the upper band. Right? If they're going in the opposite direction, they're targeting the lower band. You can enable this here, and it'll target those upper and lower band values. What we also have here is opposite LB action, right? What to do when you get say you're in a buy off of an LB buy, then you get a LB sell, right? Me, when I'm scalping, right, I immediately, if I get an LB sell and I'm in a buy, I'm immediately closing my buys. There are other times where you may not want to do that. You may want to just take a partial, say, you know, for sure, hey, you know what? You know this thing is going to, you know, in your mind, you know, this thing is going to fly, it's going to keep going. But if I get a high probability setup for a reversal, which is going to include an LB, I may just want to protect. I may just want to take a partial. I may want to take partial and protect. So you can configure the action of the LB, of the opposite LB, opposite of your. So that's I find I get a lot of value. Definitely very helpful to me.
That's very valuable.
And then what you have is the partial percent. I skipped over this, but this partial percent is going to, here's where you could put in a percentage. Right now it's set to 50%. You can 5.5. You could put in, 1.0, which is 100%. And as price hits your targets, it's going to partial by that. It's going to take that much percentage off of your percentage. That is set for 75%. It's not going to leave 75%.
So would you use that in like a choppy market, narrow range? Is that where that would come into play?
The partial percent?
No. The
opposite?
The opposite LB action.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So I use that. I mean, the M1 is choppy, you know, as it could be, right? So me, when I'm on the M1, I'm using this option all the time, and usually I don't have it to no action. I usually have it to close because I feel at that point, if I'm getting LB, you know, I'm feeling that hey, plus my entries, the LBs are so much closer. I just want to take what's me at that point.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
So let's demonstrate. Actually, before we go there, I just want to talk about this here. Also, this option here, stop loss protection. And this, what we'll do is, if you hit a target, it will auto move stops to break even if this value is true. So, sorry guys on the end with this. Back is gonna. I'll look at that. I'll probably. So, here we go. We have the enable auto stops to break even, and that will automatically, when it takes that first partial, going to automatically stops. But it'll also add the price offset. Want to cover the fee? Got break even. You can set it to break even or your open price plus this amount of offset the pips or the exit price that you can close at break even, not in the red. So I will click here because I guys this. I haven't done this on this machine yet. All this done was auto trade, but I haven't done it. I think I'm in buys. I'm in buys. Gotta be. Oh yeah. Right. So for buys, here are, if I were to click Put it on the out. There. I'm in buys here. Here are my SMAs. These are my SMA targets. If I were to click, so I've got my targets ahead of me. Boom, here are my targets. If I were to click, and the EA is running, if I were to click Manage Manual, it automatically, we'll see, it automatically puts the targets on the screen. It will automatically target the moving average price, and it will automatically target these moving averages here. And as these moving averages shift, grow, they automatically move averages. You should be able to automatically click or click a moving average, and you will see what it will provide to you, listing of tickets that this take partial line is going to process. So this simple move, this take partial line is going to process the. I've got 2 tickets open. The remaining are my pending. So basically, you can attach or detach tickets to any trend line. I'm sorry, any take partial line. So consider this example: got in before markets open, taking your partial, and now market has opened, and you opened up a new position. Well, when you click on Manage Manual and you target those simple moving averages, it's going to automatically attach both tickets to the line. You can click and remove one of the tickets, and it'll automatically that ticket. It now has this.
Hey, Squawk, just a quick question. So you're already in a trade and you've already hit Manage Manual. I think I'm correct in this. If I hit another trade after taking a partial from the original trade, if I hit Manage Manual and buy again, I'm gonna set a new Manage Manual, right? So partials are going to be all brand new.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you. I'm just confirming what I think I already knew.
That's correct. So basically what you'll do is say you're in, so for example, we have the targets already on the screen. You opened up another position. Now, clicked the manage, or you clicked any of these trend lines, it's that new ticket's not going to be associated with these old trend lines. I'm sorry, these old take partial lines. They won't be associated with partial lines or established. So what you would have to do is to attach it, you can just click on Manage Manual again, and it will automatically attach your new tickets to those existing. I think I could demonstrate. Click this.
Pretty helpful when the market is shooting either one in terms of taking your partials. When you realize, wow, that didn't take any partials, and then you have to go back and kind of partials.
Yeah, if you thumb is if you enter an order, or just naturally just management targets have your new. Maybe there's some logic in the future that I would put that it'll detect any annual orders. There's going to be some. So basically, if I were to open a new order here, let me open up a. if I click on this target here, you'll see the new ticket number. It ends in 2. If I were to click this here, you would see 295 is not associated to the order. So basically, what you could do is click on Manage Manual. And what it'll do is it'll then attach.
Yeah, it did.
Oh no, that's so let's see here. And here, new ticket is not associated. The last ticket, manual. Now associated. So as you create orders, you should click Manage Manual to reattach or to add your new ticket. Guys, there. Guys?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir. We're here.
No, we're here. We're here.
So now let's talk fibs, right? So if you wanted to target your fibs, actually, wanted to, you can just start. Here, let's start. I've got some orders here. Orders. If you shift click anywhere on the chart, drop at any point, them around, move them around, you can click them, you can drag them, you can, right? If the take partial line is be nice, it's going to automatically detect it as a stop loss. So you will get a button here that's called trail. If I click trail, that then this line then be up, and it'll track price up along the way as price down, but it'll notice here if I click this line here up top, you notice that trail button is not. So basically, how you can set it, you can set it, and what you can do is have your trailing running, click it, ticket numbers, and here you can customize partial percent. So in the EA settings, it says we've configured it for 50%. But here you may say, you know what, I want to close this. I want this line to have a custom value of 100%, 1.0%. Okay, actually I did. Yeah, well, I took it in. So now this trailing stop will now take 100%. If so, that's going to be super helpful. Now let's talk. Now, if I wanted to draw fibs, basically you can use the fib tool that is in Administrator. So basically what you could do is, if you were to drag your fib on your chart, you can configure these fibs, right? So if you were to drag it, say I were to drag it from here, you can right click it and you can click on your fib properties, and there's where you set your lines, right? Yellow lines that are drawn, you can configure them. You can configure these levels right here in the dialog box here. Takes you through in Administrator. What I'll also do is just line and shift U buttons down, button up, shift. And basically, if you wanted to, you can take your fib, and you can draw your swing low. Right. And at this point here, actually, that and configure this machine. I'm going to do another, but I will expand local machine. Now I'll draw a swing high to swing low here. And if I click on this button, you'll notice that I get a totally different menu system. And you can line these up so they all look perfect. Here you have your manage manual, your text, your partial. If you were to click that fib line, you're going to get a totally different menu system that's going to say add fib TPs and add fib SLs. If I click on the add fib TPs, it automatically drew fib line. So if I remove this fib, these fib TPs, so if I were to remove this fib, that it automatically drew partial line. Here, if you were to zoom in, you can see here it says, and you can mouse over it, it'll let you know. This is a fib 0.618, take partial line made off the 5-minute. A fib 50% retracement, take partial line. So you can configure this E. And right now, I think that is a lot. That's enough right now. And, keep in mind, the strategy is take partials often. This tool is great for those that don't have a strategy and want to adapt my strategy, or for those people who do have strategy. Got some killer traders group. They've got their own strategy, but they're using this tool to help with managing their trade or give them a. But for partials, taking partials and targeting, the strategy is we take partials at simple moving averages, because we know that these simple moving averages are back to price, and because we don't know if that reaction is going to be great or not based on where we entered and how we entered the position, we're taking partials, and we partials automatically and often. So for those that see me or have seen me scalp live, or when I post up in the community, you'll see partials 500. Of the day is $3,500, $5,000 to $5,000. So, if you don't have a strategy, adapt this strategy. The strategy that I have, for me, it works for me. It's live off of. I will be adapting other strategies. I'll be doing that also as well. And these will give me the opportunity without such a allow me to market structure in a way that we hand, and it'll help me be faster on the buttons. Those that have not feature like this anywhere, annually take partials off your trades. That's life right there. Adding a lot of value in my that is. I'm super happy about it, and I'll keep this open right now. If there's anyone that has other features, or you have any questions about the auto trading advisor status, we talk about it. Quite some
About an hour and a half, yeah.
long.
Yeah.
But this will be saved out there on YouTube. Take a look at it, review it. I'll segment this. I'll chop this up into different updated for training. Don't have any questions. Thank you very much, guys. Definitely appreciate you guys, and I'll see you AM on the live. Get that bag.
No, we appreciate you, buddy. Absolutely.
Appreciate it. Thanks. Bye.
Thanks, Squawk.
Sure.
Good night, Squawk.